Hello, this presentation will introduce you to APA 7th edition style writing, which you will use to write all of your student papers throughout your time in the counseling program. So let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce you to some important resources. On the left is the APA 7th edition publication manual. It is highly recommended that you obtain a copy of this manual as it is the ultimate source. This edition was just published in 2020, so its contents should be valid for the next 7 to 10 years. There are also many online resources available to you. Purdue University's online writing lab provides detailed guidelines and examples of most often needed information. And you can always utilize Oakland University's Writing Center for additional support. So why do we need to use APA style writing? The main reason is that it offers consistency and uniformity throughout many fields, including counseling, social work, psychology, nursing, communications, education, and other social sciences. These fields are advanced through the sharing of research, information, and ideas within and across disciplines. APA style provides a set of guidelines for this communication, which assists in presenting ideas in a predictable, concise, and organized way. APA 7th edition offers guidelines for both student papers and professional papers. This presentation will focus on student papers. The basics. Forget the fancy stuff. Use plain white letter-sized paper. Margins are 1 inch on all sides, and the entirety of the paper is double-spaced, with few exceptions, such as long quotes. Use one of the standard fonts. The most often used are 12-point Times New Roman, 11-point Arial, and 11-point Calibri. Sometimes your professor will dictate which font you should use. A student paper has 3 major sections: the title page, the main body of the paper, and the references. Professional papers and some student papers include an abstract between the title page and the main body. You will not be writing any abstracts for this class. The title page is basically your cover sheet. Page numbering begins on this page, with the 1 appearing in the top right corner and continuing throughout the paper. The title of the paper is centered, bold, and written in title case. This means that all major words are capitalized. If the title runs longer than 1 line, the title is double-spaced. The title appears 3 to 4 lines below the top margin of the page. 2 lines below the title is the author's name, followed on subsequent lines by the department and university, then the course number and name, then the instructor's name, and finally the assignment due date. Please note there is no running head in student papers under the APA 7th edition guidelines. The main body of the paper begins on page 2. Remember there are 1 inch margins on all sides and the paper is double spaced. The title of the paper is repeated on the first line, centered, bold, and written in title case. This is a level 1 heading. APA 7th edition uses a 5-level heading system. This table shows the 5 levels. We saw level 1 on the previous page. Level 2 headings are also bold, title case, but they are flush to the left margin. The text then begins as a new paragraph and indented. Level 3 headings are similar to Level 2, but are italicized. Level 4 headings are indented, bold, title case, and end with a period. The text then begins on the same line and continues as a regular paragraph. Level 5 headings are similar to Level 4, but are italicized. The next slide shows an example of the 5 levels of heading within a paper. Of course, you generally would not see all 5 levels show up on a single page, as there would be more content. The third major section of the student paper is the references. Your reference list will begin on a new page, so you will do a hard page break by hitting Control plus Enter after the last line in the main body of your paper. Your reference list must correspond perfectly to your paper. By this I mean that there should be a reference entry for every source cited in the paper, and there should be a citation within the paper for every source that is listed in your references. The references page is double-spaced. The first line of each entry is flush left, with all subsequent lines for that entry indented 1/2 inch from the left margin. On the right-hand side of this slide, you will see an example of a reference list. The title References is bold, centered, and appears only on the first page of references if yours is longer than one page. As we move on to discussing how these references appear as citations within the body of your paper, I would like to emphasize that APA is a complex system of citation guidelines. This presentation will barely scratch the surface, and ultimately, you are responsible for ensuring that all citations and references are presented according to APA 7th edition guidelines. That is why I recommend utilizing a citation generator. 3 of these are shown on the slide: MyBib, Mendeley, and RefWorks. A citation generator compiles sources and generates the reference entry and in-text citation per the selected writing format, in this case APA 7th edition. When complete, the citation generator also generates an alphabetized, appropriately formatted reference list, which you can copy and paste into your document. APA uses the author date method of in-text citations. There are 2 primary formats, parenthetical and narrative. Parenthetical is used at the end of a passage that you want to cite. Note that the citation comes before the period in the sentence. Narrative citations are used when the author's name is incorporated into the text as part of the sentence, in which case the year of publication is shown in parentheses following the author's name. It is important to avoid under-citation, as this can lead to plagiarism, but it is equally important to avoid over-citation. You do not need to cite every sentence if consecutive sentences are derived from the same source. You need only place the citation at the end of the paragraph or sentences. Citations are used whenever you directly quote the words of others, refer to data, reprint all or part of a table, figure, or image from the internet, and reprinting long text passages or copyrighted text items. The most common use of citations within your paper will be to credit the ideas of others that you have paraphrased. This is the essence of scholarly writing, reading and absorbing the work of others, and then accurately restating the information in your own words, organizing the ideas in a way that leads to the purpose or theme of your paper. Let's discuss some general tips for academic writing. Always begin with an outline. Use the 5-level heading system to organize the content of your paper in a logical way. Open the main body of the paper with an introduction. Note that the introduction does not need its own heading. You will have restated the title of the paper on the first line of the second page. You can then begin typing the introduction with no secondary heading. End your paper with a conclusion, which summarizes the content of your paper in a concise way. Do use a heading for the conclusion. Within the body of your paper, use short, concise sentences. Leave out unnecessary words. An academic paper is free of fluff. Rather than stating, "It is really important," you would remove the word really and simply state, "It is important." Be deliberate with your use of verb tense. Remain consistent within a sentence or a paragraph. Avoid referring to yourself in third person when describing actions, such as, "The author believes that." Simply state the thought. It is assumed it is the author who is making the statement when there is no citation. Do not use contractions. Use cannot, rather than can't, do not rather than don't. Avoid abbreviations, colloquialisms, or slang expressions. And please, remember to proofread. Do not rely upon your computer's spell check, as this often misses errors. There is an entire chapter in the APA publication manual on the topic of bias-free writing. We all possess unconscious, long-standing cultural biases, which can show up in our writing, so we need to be as conscious of this as we are of spelling, punctuation, and grammar. When writing about individuals or groups of people, it is important to choose our words carefully to ensure we use words that are accurate, clear, and free from bias or prejudicial connotations. Use labels with sensitivity, remembering to respect each individual's humanity and calling people what they call themselves. Recognize and acknowledge intersectionality, the multiple dimensions of identity and social systems. Each of us may be a mixture of identities, including both privileged and non-privileged aspects. Beyond these general guidelines, the APA Publication Manual provides specific guidance relative to writing about age, disability, gender, racial and ethnic identity, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. Lastly, I'd like to make you aware that there is an APA-style paper template within Google Docs that you have access to through your OU Gmail account. Here are the instructions for accessing that template. And here are my references. Please note that this list is copied and pasted from my MyBib account. Thank you for watching this APA 7th edition style introductory video. I wish you well in your academic writing endeavors.